Hi Year 6, it's Friday the 22nd of May and here is our maths learning for today, and our learning objective is to understand the properties of angles and how to calculate missing angles from lots of different shapes and lots of different lines as well. Okay, so starting with the properties, I always find it really helpful to use this image here. So this is what we call the angle family. Okay, so this really helps us to understand the different types of angles. So we're going to start with the one on the left here. So this is Mrs. Right Angle, and she is always right, and she measures exactly 90 degrees. And then going over to the right, we've got Mr. Obtuse Angle. So Mr. Obtuse Angle is the husband of the family, and he is always inside because he likes to cook, and he measures between 90 degrees and 180 degrees. So he's slightly bigger than that right angle, depending on how much he's eaten, of course. And then down in the bottom left, we've got Baby Acute. Baby Acute is very cute and he loves a hug. He is the smallest and he measures less than 90 degrees. So those are all those tiny, tiny small angles that are less than a right angle. And then over to the right here, we've got Reflex, their dog. So Reflex is the Angle's dog. He is always outside playing with his ball, and he is only a pup at the moment, measuring 180, but he can grow up to 360 degrees. So he's the one, eventually he'll be bigger than Mr. Obtuse. And then finally, we've got Mr. Chip. So Mr. Chip is Acute's favorite toy, and he loves chips baked at exactly 180 degrees. And this essentially means that because Mr. Chip is made up of 4 lines, and angles on a line always add up to 180 degrees. And I'm going to show you some examples of that in a moment. Okay, next I'm just going to go through using that knowledge of the angle family, just looking at a few angles and trying to work out which type they are. So we're just going to start with this angle here. As we can see, it has a square in between the 2 lines. When there is a square in between those 2 lines where they meet, where they're perpendicular, that means it is a right angle. So I'm just going to use the abbreviation RA. So that is a right angle. Okay, next we're going to look at this particular angle. So we can see that the right angle is where 2 lines meet perpendicular, and this one is less than 90 degrees. It's a smaller angle. We can see that here. So therefore this would be an acute angle. And then next we're going to look at this one here. So we can see from this example, the bit of the angle we're looking at is the outside. And that is 210 degrees. So therefore, it's bigger than 180. So therefore, this one is a reflex angle. Okay, the next one we're going to look at is this one here. And we can see if this was a right angle, it would go up that way to make our right angle, but it's bigger. But it's not quite as big as the previous one we've just looked at. So therefore, this one is an obtuse angle. And again, we've got a tiny, tiny little angle. We know that this one is less than 90 degrees, so that we've got another acute angle. And then down at the bottom here, we've got another square. And then that square, if we remember from the beginning, means that is where the 2 lines meet that are perpendicular. So therefore, the angle there is a right angle. Even though these are rotated differently, we can still work them out. You can either turn the page or turn the screen to try and work out which type of angle it is. Okay, so going back to what I said a little bit earlier about angles in a straight line. So the example over here, we've got that A plus B always equals 180 degrees. So here's our line that we would be looking at, and then all the angles that go around here would always add up to 180. This example only has 2 angles, but the ones we're going to be looking at in a moment are going to have 3, 4, and in some questions you might get may even have 5 or 6. So, but all we need to remember is that a straight line is half a turn or 180 degrees. So angles on a straight line always add up to 180 degrees. Okay, so looking at our example here, we can see we've got a 60 degrees, we've got a 40 degrees, and then we've got a missing piece. So we know that 60 and 40, that equals 100. So all the angles along a straight line add up to 180. So 180 subtract 100, that means that missing angle, that B, must be equal to 80 degrees. We always put that little circle floating in the air to show the degrees. Okay, then our next example down here, we've got 4 different angles and one of them is missing. So we've got 15 degrees, we've got a 19 degrees, and we've got 115 degrees. So to work out our missing one, we're going to have to do a little bit of addition and then maybe some subtraction. So we've got 115 plus 19 plus 15. Okay, so again, using my column addition method, 5 add 5 is 10, plus the 9 is 19. 1 add 1 add 1 is 3, plus the 1 that we're exchanging is 4. And then 100 plus nothing equals 100. So far, all of our angles that we know add up to 149 degrees. Okay, so now to work out our missing one, we're going to have to find the difference. So 180 subtract 149. Okay, so we will start with the ones column. 0 subtract 9 we can't do, so we need to exchange. 10 subtract 9 is 1. 7 subtract 4 is 3. And 1 subtract 1 is 0. So therefore, our missing angle, our C, is equivalent to 31 degrees. Okay, next we're looking at angles around a point, and it's really important that if we're looking at all of these angles, they always add up to 360 degrees, because if we were to do a full turn, if we were to turn all the way around, we would do a 360 degree turn. So some questions you might get are ones that look like an X here. Okay, let me just highlight the X. Ooh. So you might get an X question, and it's really important that you understand that the opposite angles are the same. So in this particular case, I can see that B would be equivalent to D, and A would be equivalent to C. This only works for X style questions. Okay, so now looking at the question to the right, I can see that up here is 122 degrees. So therefore, the bottom must also be 122 degrees. So that means we've got 2 missing parts, but we know they're going to be the same. So the first thing we're going to need to do is 122 add 122 is 244. And then we're going to have to subtract that from 360. So we would do 360 subtract 244. So we do our column subtraction again. 0 take away 4 we can't do, so we need to exchange. 10 take away 4 is 6. 5 take away 4 is 1. And 3 take away 2 is also 1. So that leaves us with 116 degrees. But that doesn't mean that this is 116 degrees and this is 116 degrees, because that just wouldn't work, because we need to have all our angles add up to 360. So we now need to divide that number that we got by 2. So that would mean half of 100 would be 50, and half of 16 would be 8. So then 50 add 8 is 58. So that means this angle here is 58 degrees, and this angle here is also 58 degrees. Okay, the last example here on this slide, again, what you need to think about is trying to make that circle. Angles in a circle always add up to 360. So that's going to be really helpful when we're trying to find our missing angle. So we know from our types of angles that if we've got a square here, that must mean a right angle. And a right angle is always 90 degrees. So again, a bit of column addition, 118 plus 106 plus 90. So 8 add 6, that would be 14. 9 and 1 is 10, plus the 1 is 11. And 1 is 3. So far, all the angles we know about add up to 314 degrees. And then we've got our missing one. So we know all the angles around a point add up to 360. So we can just subtract that from 360. So 0 subtract 4 we can't do, so we need to exchange. 10 subtract 4 would be 6. 5 subtract 1 would be 4. And 3 subtract 3 would equal 0. So therefore our missing question mark here would be equivalent to 46 degrees. Okay, so now we're going to be looking at angles in a triangle. So angles inside a triangle always add up to 180 degrees. And the reason for that is that triangles are like straight lines. As we can see from this particular image here, this triangle, we've cut the edges off, the vertices off of each vertex, and we've then lined them up into a line. So that is why angles inside of a triangle always add up to 180, because if you take the corners off and align them up, you will get a straight line. So looking at our examples here, we've got 108 degrees and 42. So if we add those together, that would get us 150. So I'm going to try and do a little bit more mental calculation now. So that gets 150, and then to get to 180, we would need 30 more degrees. So therefore our missing angle here is 30 degrees. Okay, and then our question here, we've got 58 degrees and 88 degrees. So if we add those together, we're going, I might need a bit of column addition here just to make sure I'm accurate. 58 and 88. 8 add 8 is 16. 8 add 1 is 9, plus the 5 is 14. So far I've got 146 degrees. So I need to work out that missing one. So I'm just going to quickly 180 subtract 146. So I'm going to do that all using my column subtraction method. Therefore, so our missing angle here would be 34 degrees, because these three numbers add up to 180, and also in our previous question, all the three numbers add up to 180. Okay, and then finally, we're just going to be looking at some angles of quadrilaterals, and they're a bit like the angles around a point. A plus B plus C equals, plus D equals 360 degrees. And a bit like the triangles, if you take all the corners off of a quadrilateral and you put them together, you actually can make sort of like a circular shape. So if you think about a square and you take all the corners off, all the corners are right angles. So therefore, if you put them all together, you're then going to create a point that you can go around. So that's why they always add up to 360 degrees. Okay, so in our first question here, we can see we've got 79 degrees and we've got 133 degrees. But then I've got this square. I wonder whether you can remember what that square means, what type of angle that is. Yeah, you're right, it's a type of right angle. And a right angle is always equal to 90 degrees. So I've got three numbers. I just need to work out what x is. So 133, add 79, add 90. So 9 add 3 is 12. 9 add 1 is 10, 7 add 3 would be another 10, so that's 20. And then 1 add 2 is 3. So I've got 302. So I would do 360, take away 302, or I could just find the difference. And I know mentally the difference there would be 58. So x is equivalent to 58 degrees. Okay, then finally I've got my kite shape here. I know that I've got 122 degrees, I have got 74 degrees, I have got 42 degrees, and then I've got a missing one here. Okay, so just like the other question, I'm going to use my column addition. So 42, 74, and 122. 2 add 2 is 4, plus the 4 is 8. 7 add 2 is 9. plus the 4 is 13, and 1 add 1 is 2. So the angles I've got so far add up to 238 degrees, but I want them to add up to 360. So I'm going to do 360 subtract 238. So a bit of exchanging needs to happen there. 10 take away 8 is 2, 5 take away 3 is also 2, and 3 take away 2 is 1. So therefore my missing angle is 122 degrees. Oh, if we look carefully here, this angle and this angle are the same. That's because this shape is symmetrical, so the angles would be the same also. Okay, just to finish off then, it's now time for you to choose your star activity. However, today there are 2 pages of star activities because angles, you need to see them really well. So I've spread them over 2 pages. So obviously this would be 1 star, with this one being on the 2nd page. And then we've got our 2 star, and then 2 star here, and then 3 star with 3 star. Don't forget to look out for that additional task there as well, to create your own version of the angle family by designing a poster telling us all about your angle knowledge and all the different angles. So I really hope to see your maths learning and maybe even some posters. Cool. See you soon, guys. Bye.